Welcome to this podcast produced for Business Lincolnshire as part of the Fit for Business programme. I am Guy Lewis, and today we are joined by Deborah Goodall from Air 8 Marketing to discuss things to think about when choosing company and business names. Hi Deborah. Firstly, are there different types of names that we should consider when thinking about our company name?
Hi, Guy. Yeah, there's quite a lot of different things to consider when choosing a company name. And really, you can split them into three categories. So there's names that describe what you do, things like Kentucky Fried Chicken or Toys R Us or Just Eat. And then there are names that might initially mean nothing, but then could grow into a brand. So if you think about the likes of Amazon, obviously Amazon, it was, synonymous with the rainforest, and now it's synonymous with purchasing online, names like Starbucks, etc. Or you could come up with a completely new name, such as Ocado.
Okay, and how do you decide what's a good name, for your business?
Well, there's lots of things to influence what's a good name for your business, and ultimately, it comes down to understanding what's going to resonate with your customers the most. So the start point is to understand your customers and then think about actually what the names that you are considering will conjure up in their minds, and try and make the name sort of relevant to them and your business. So if you think about business such as Leaf Envy, which is an online plant retailer, they're very much kind of targeting people who are keen on plants, but wanting the very best plants so that their peers or friends or neighbours will be almost envious of their plant collection.
Yeah. I get that one. And what about things that might be around for a long time, or what about things how do you get something that's going to be durable or?
Well, that's quite difficult. It's almost like you need a crystal ball to see in the future. So if you think about the likes of Carphone Warehouse, obviously really strong brands back in the day, really strong name. Mobile phones were car phones, and now nobody really calls a mobile phone a car phone. Carphone Warehouse doesn't really resonate with, anybody under the age of 40, I would guess, because they'd be like, well, actually, what's a car phone? So, you kind of have to think about actually what is going to work long term for your business. So there's a business set up called the Hebden Trouser Company, who basically started making really good quality trousers based in Hebden Bridge, and it was all about using local suppliers. And they've diversified their collection to include all sorts of things from Yorkshire pudding trays to action blankets to all sorts of stuff. And they've actually contracted their name, and so their brand name is now Hebtro Co. So they've actually got a name that harks back to their original, but they've basically created this new brand.
Okay, and what about words that mean something or don't mean something, or might mean something here, in Lincolnshire, but mean something different elsewhere?
Yeah, there's lots of aspects on that. There's sort of localisms to take into account. So, what might be bobbins in one county as being something that's really good might be bobbins meaning that's a load of rubbish in another county. So you kind of have to think, actually, do you have a region in which you're operating in? Or are you operating in a country? If you're thinking of a word and you're going to operate internationally, what does that word mean overseas? There's a lot of examples of businesses that have had to change their name because it means something offensive in another country, and they've then started to sort of sell in that territory. Or you can just create a new word. So you and I were having a discussion the other day about Exxon and how that's actually, it's not a word. It doesn't mean anything. They just created that because they knew it was a neutral phrase that they could use around the world.
Are there any names we should avoid?
Yeah, surprisingly, there are actually guide names that you need to, words that or expressions that you need to avoid rather than names particularly. So some need approval from Secretary of State, things like association and royal and English and council. And then actually if you're registering with Companies House, then you can only have a maximum of 160 characters. And obviously it needs to be a name that's not already been registered, and it doesn't infringe on the trademarks. And there's kind of punctuations, abbreviations, signs and symbols that you shouldn't use as well. To be honest, the best thing to do is kind of reference them on gov.uk and kind of look up incorporation and names on there, and sort of familiarise yourself before brainstorming all the names that you're going to come up with.
Okay. And is there anything about spelling and that sort of stuff that you need to think about?
Well, it's best not to misspell words unless that's what appeals to your target audience. If you've got if you've got a product or a business where it's appealing to a young or funky target audience, then having a misspelling in your name could be worth exploring. Obviously TikTok went that way, Flickr went that way. There's kind of this trend of dropping vowels out.
So your name is going back to knowing your customer.
Absolutely.
Actually, what are they comfortable with?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess also that you don't want the longest sort of title in the world.
No, definitely not. No, there's definitely something in having a short name, and it might be that it's really short and to the point. So it might be that the name features what you do. So you might be Bob the Builder, for example. But you don't, if you then start and think about actually how your name is going to appear on business cards, or it's going to appear as a web address, having a really long name or an email address, having to spell that out over the phone to people having to remember what it is if they see it on an advert, etc. Just all becomes a bit of a nightmare, to be honest.
Got you. So I think of a great name. This is going to be my business. Off I go and do it.
There are some steps to do beforehand. So as a marketeer, I would obviously suggest that you might run these ideas past some of your potential target audience or, friends and family, so that you've got a chance to get a bit of feedback as to actually what that name conjures up with people. And I know I did that with my own business. I actually came up with quite a few names and then sort of landed on Air 8 as a result of thinking about breathing life into businesses. Do test your sort of potential names. And then there is a bit further sort of due diligence to do, really, I guess. Is anybody else using that name? Are people using that name in the same sector as you? Have they already got an established sort of business or brand? So you've got to be careful not to step on people's toes. There's other places that you can sort of check as well. Company's House, for example. So whether or not you are looking to be a limited company, it's worth seeing on the limited companies. No, it's worth seeing on the Company's House register if any limited companies are using those names.
What about location specific? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Again, it comes down to, are you going to operate in that solely in that region, or are you trying to capitalise on that sense of place? So I'm trying to think of a region-specific example now. Oh, you've put me on the spot, Guy.
I was thinking of someone who was Tombola Services Northern. I don't know if there was a southern idea, but there's that sort of idea. Well, I'm in the north, so I'm not going to supply the south. I just do the north because there's someone else there, or it's a different territory.
Yeah, so that might be a different territory, but if you think about, say, so I'm going to use my events company. So if you think about Yorkshire True Grit, we were capitalising on the sense of place and all the features of Yorkshire to actually bring that into the title, and there was also maybe initial thoughts that we would roll those out across the country. So there might have been a Lincolnshire True Grit, there might have been a Devon True Grit, etc. So you kind of have to think, what are your overall aims with the business, and how the name might help with that or restrict that growth in some way.
Okay, so sometimes using that regionality as being, I'm going to set up this one and then maybe roll it out to the rest of the country. So that makes some sense. So we've discussed company names, and I think the next bit to think about is you've got a company name. How does that, or does it relate to the domain name? Is that something you should be thinking about in like all in one?
Yeah, it's a good idea to start thinking about it all in one. So with your domain name, you're probability of ranking in a search result. So if someone is searching for, say, marketing services, my business name, Air Rate Marketing, has got marketing in there. So the probability of ranking on a search for marketing services is slightly increased because it's within the domain name. It's going to be within the title of the pages. It's going to be within the page descriptions. But if you are just, Guy Lewis, nobody knows what you do, Guy. So, trying to then convey what you do through your brand image is going to be much more difficult. So trying to have your specialism, so Bob the Builder, Pete the Plumber, Kerry the Carpenter, within your business name can aid rankings. And it can also sort of land a bit better with your customers, to be honest, because then it's much more instant recognition.
So I make my name up, decide it, throw it past a few friends, looking at domain names, and there's loads. There's .com, there's .co, there's .co.uk, there's .tv. They go lots of them. What's your thoughts? What's the sort of should you get them all? Should you just go for the key ones? What are the key ones?
What are the key ones indeed? And again, this kind of comes down to your target audience and what is going to land with them and build trust. So the solid ones, sort of the safe options, if you like, are obviously .co.uk, .com.uk, .com, and just from a matter of protecting your name, it's probably worth having a look down what's available, getting .co.uk, maybe getting the .com one to redirect, and maybe the .co, just so if someone else buys that domain, then you've got control of the key ones. But if your target audience is much younger and much more open to the idea of a domain name that has a different ending, then don't just think, it's got to be .co, because you might be buying, you might buy something that is much more reflective of your business. So you can buy all sorts now. There seems to be no limits on what the ending on your domain name is. So buy the one that will resonate with your target audience. Yeah, there was
something I also caught on TV the other day, and it was about certain things being caught in spam filters. So being aware of that.
But just something to take into account. So the trusted ones, .co.uk, .com.uk, .co, .com, are less likely to get caught in spam filters. But again, it depends on how your customers set up their spam filters in the first place, what their attitude is to security. A lot of it is really just about building trust with customers. So think about actually how your customers are going to perceive what your website address is.
My name is Guy Lewis, and you're with myself and Deborah Goodall discussing things to think about when choosing company and business names. I just wanted to go there. How do you go on about protecting your name?
Yeah, so if you go onto the company's house website, even if you are not planning on being a limited company, then it is worth considering buying that company name just to protect yourself against someone else setting up with that name and potentially, damaging your reputation or contesting that they own the name and you don't. It's a relatively easy process. I can't think that it costs very much. I'm thinking it was like less than £30 maybe. Yeah, it's been a bit of a while since I've done one, but it's worth doing for the money that you outlay, and you just set it up as a dormant company so that if you don't want to use it, that you don't have to go through a massive process of submitting accounts. And it's yours. No one else can come along and just take it away from you.
So that's like you're a sole trader.
Yeah.
You're not a limited, but actually go into company's house and register a limited company in that name, so you're protecting the name that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
And then obviously that runs to domain names as well, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah. So pick up the domain names that you want, and then think about actually are there others within that suite that you potentially could buy to protect, against other people using it in the future.
Are there any other ways of sort of protecting the name?
Yeah, you can have a look at the Intellectual Property Office and see if anyone's registered the name as a trademark. And again, you could consider registering it as a trademark yourself. Again, not a particularly expensive sort of process to go through. It is something that you can do yourself. You have to select which categories you want to register the trademark in. I think you select from, I think there's 18 categories off the top of my head, something like that. And you select which category you are operating within. There is an opportunity for those in the other categories to contest if someone else is using it in a different category. But it's, like I say, relatively simple sort of process to go through, and could be worth giving consideration to for some businesses.
And obviously we talked about the business name, we talked about domain names. Social media, I guess, is a as bigger, if not bigger, aspect of this.
Absolutely, and sort of collecting the social addresses, hopefully, that match your domain name, which should match your business name. So it's really easy for people to think, oh, I want to see whether that person is on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is. And if they're all exactly the same, how much easier is that for your customer to be able to find you and know that they're actually interacting with the same business?
I was doing a bit of reading on this and I came across, checking things with Urban Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary, yeah, absolutely. What you and I, Guy, at our age, think a word means could mean something else to someone different completely. So it's always worth just, running it through Urban Dictionary, seeing how you feel about the associations that it maybe got with a different generation, and maybe educate yourself a bit on some youthful language.
I think I heard a 60th birthday speech with lots of words that were different in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure there was. So great. We talked about the names. We talked about domains. I mean, how does this? Is this different with different business entities? The sole traders, the partnerships, the limited companies.
So. Sort of yes and no. As a sole trader or partnership or limited company, you want to obviously own all you can to protect other people from buying your name in the future. For how you present yourself, though, there are specific rules to follow. So if you're a sole trader or partnership and you're trading as a business name, then actually you need to present your personal information on your website and on letterheads and invoices, etc. So I would have been Deborah Goodall trading as Air Rate Marketing rather than just hiding behind Air Rate Marketing. But as a limited company, I would be Air Rate Marketing Limited, and then you would have your registered in England number and you'd have to show your address, etc. So there are different guidelines to follow for different company types. And the best thing to do really is check gov.uk for the up-to-date list of rules and regulations that you need to follow to stay on the right side of sort of the company law.
Okay, thank you very much. You've been listening to a Business Lincolnshire podcast. Look out for the next episode. If you're listening on the Business Lincolnshire YouTube channel, don't forget to give us a thumbs up or subscribe down below. If you're on your favourite podcast platform, then remember to follow the show. More information at businesslincolnshire.com.